So we're gonna start out first by doing a taper just at the sideburn and the neck. We're gonna concentrate on keeping it extremely low and condensed in case he wanted to keep the weight towards the top of his head. In order to do that, we're gonna go in first with our zero, and we're gonna do a zero anchor, pivot, and suspend, and do a C-scoop motion. So what I mean by that is I'm gonna anchor those teeth right up into his head. I'm gonna pivot it back so it hits the spine of the clipper, and then I'm gonna C-scoop and rock it out as I'm coming up. This is gonna help start my blend for me without even doing the shaver. While I'm doing it a diagonal back motion. This is so that way the hair, it starts to blend in that direction. So as you can see, I kept it very low because again, we are gonna mimic an actual taper. So I'm gonna go in with the shaver. I am going to utilize the shaver going down with the hair growth first to reduce the bulk, and then coming up against it to remove it completely. So first turn it on, and then I'll come back up to reduce it completely. While I'm coming up, I'm maintaining that C-scoop motion as well, so that way I'm able to start that blend. Next, I'm gonna go in with my one. I'm gonna do still that C-scoop motion. I'm gonna come about a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch above his ear. I don't wanna go more than a 1/2 inch because that will spread out my fade. I'm trying to keep it condensed for a taper. So it'll really be just above what we did, and it's more so that flick of the wrist motion. You're gonna take off your number one and you're gonna open it up to create a half. And then we're gonna do that same C-scoop motion in between our zero and our one. And if you can see here, that line is already faded out. There is no disconnection between that zero and the one. Now that I have him at a number one, the rest is gonna be blending up with my comb. And it's gonna be angling out from there. Because the lowest I can cut with the comb directly against his skin is gonna be a number one, it's all about angling my comb to blend to the length that he already has on his side. Then if I need to finesse this line a little bit more, I can go back in with my one opened up to create a one. So again, opening it up to create a 1.5. And I'll go in just to finesse that line just a tad with that same C-scoop motion. As you can see, it's nice and blended out. So we're gonna go in with our zero in the back, and we're gonna do that same taper, keeping it condensed below the bottom of his earlobe. So it's gonna be the bottom of the neck portion. That's where we're gonna be focusing this fade on itself. Going in with our zero, again, doing that anchor, pivot, and suspend in the C-scoop motion. Can I have you look down? Thank you. I am going to just create my guide with my zero first, going in with that C-scoop motion. After I did my zero, I'm gonna go in with my trimmer to remove the excess hair around that hairline, making sure that I'm grabbing all the little neck hairs all at once, so when I take the shaver in, I can get them all the way down. Next, I'm gonna go in with my shaver. This shaver actually has the dual blades. So what this does is they actually cross one another when you're cutting. So the first swipe is gonna taper it down. The second swipe is gonna take it completely bald. So by utilizing a single blade, I can finesse or taper out that little bit of a line that you may have between your actual bald shaver and your actual haircut. We're gonna go in and just like on the sides where we reduce the length and tapered it down, we're gonna do the same thing by going with that hair growth first. And then I'm gonna turn it over and I'm gonna utilize both the blades as I'm working back up with that same C-scoop motion. So that way it starts that blend for us. Next, we're gonna go in with our one, and we are gonna still do that same C-scoop motion. We're gonna keep it about a 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch max above what we just did with our zero. His hair on the side here, and I'm gonna turn him just a little bit so you can see. His hair actually grows sideways over here, which is common on the neckline. So making sure that we're going against that hair growth to really get the true length. After we do that, we're gonna take off our 1, we're gonna open it up to a half, and we're still gonna do that same C-scoop between our 0 and our 1. Then it's just about blending out between our 1 and our guards up top, or our length up top. If you find you're seeing a little bit of patching, you can always go in with a notching technique that's utilizing the corner of your blade with the in-between guard. So I'm using a 1 up here, a 0 down here. So I'm using a half. I'm gonna use the corner of my blade, and I'm gonna do a point cut method into those thicker patches. Easy peasy. Say the best part about this method is if you utilize that C-scoop motion, you will not have to actually blend out a line later on. Again, I'm going to open it up and do a little bit of that notching. So we blend it. You can pause that one. So in order to do my bald fade, I'm gonna go in first and put that line in. While I'm putting in that line, I'm making sure that I'm not bending or leaning into that haircut. I'm actually still doing that C-scoop motion that I did with the taper as well. So as I'm coming up, I'm making sure that I'm C-scooping it out towards the top to help start that blend for me, okay? Next, I'm gonna go in with my shaver. Again, I'm gonna go down with the hair growth first to reduce the bulk, and then I'm gonna turn it around to remove the hair. A lot of the times you're gonna need to utilize the trick to reduce the bulk in the back of the head more so because their hair is a lot denser and thicker 9 out of 10 times back here in this region. Next, I'm gonna go in with my number 1, still doing that C-scoop. And we're going a 1/2 inch above what we just did. We're going with our 0. We're gonna open up that lever to create a 1/2, and then we're gonna blend out that line between the two. Don't be afraid to adjust your clippers so that way you're still making sure that you're coming up against that hair growth. Also, feel free to move and stretch the skin. This is how you can make sure that we're getting it even. right here, his hair is a little bit thicker, so even though I'm going over it with that half, you see there's still a little bit of a shadow. So what you can do is reduce it to a 1/4 instead of a full 0 and go back into that section and still do that C scoop motion. That will blend it right into that half for you right there. Now that we have it blended to the 1, we're gonna go in with our clipper comb, and I'm gonna angle out from that 1 up to the length that he has up at the top. A lot of the times, the biggest struggle that people run into with the shaver is blending out the line between the actual shaved down bald to that hair. And so we've developed a couple different ways that we can actually do this to make it really easy. So first of all is I'm going to put a line in there so you guys can actually see it get blended out. So as we can see, we have the 0 here, we have the hair up here, and then we have that area in between that now we need to blend out. There is a couple ways that we can do this. The first one being my favorite method, and that's the tap down method, where you utilize the single blade by itself and actually tap down with light pressure. Think of like a pendulum, how it just grazes the surface. That's what we're going to be doing as we're coming down with that shaver, tapping that line out. That is one method. A second method is to go in with a point cut method, still utilizing the single blade, and you go in with a point cut method. Okay. The third option is going to be a circular rounding motion. Really, it's whatever your personal preference is. The key is the light pressure. That's what's going to help to blend it out without taking it all the way down to skin. So while I turn it on, you guys can see I'm going to hold his skin tight, and then I'm going to tap down with light pressure. That will reduce that bulk and that line. As you can see there, it's gone. We have a little bit here, so I'm going to go in and show you guys the point cut method now. So you're going to turn it over, utilizing the single blade and light pressure, go in and point cut. The other method is to go in a circular motion.
Still using single blade?
Yep, all utilizing that single blade. The single blade is just my favorite method personally. Okay. You can always tell when it's a hair because of the fact that it doesn't pull in the middle or during the haircut, and then all of a sudden it's just like it starts pulling and you're like, I think the hair got trapped in there. I'd much rather hair be trapped in it though than like sand or grit or dirt. Like we've had that before too. Yeah. You're like, I just came from the beach. I got sand in my hair. Sorry.
And then no, I can't wash it.
Yeah, no, you can't wash it. Well, sir, then you're gonna replace my clipper.
There's only been one time where I'm like, well, if you don't want to let me wash it, then you need to go home and wash your hair and come back.
Yeah, say most of the time you can pretty much get through it, I feel like. It's just like, I've had one guy where I had to like tell him no because he had that Gorilla Glue in his hair. But not only did he have the Gorilla Glue in his hair, it was like rock hard. I was like, there's no way I'm getting through this, dude. Right. It's like I wish, but definitely not gonna happen. So then I'm gonna use my clipper comb with the true 0, and I'm gonna go in and angle from that 1 with my clipper flush against his head up to blend to what he already has.
Yeah, just the same thing, sure. Just kind of how it's styled, but it just needs to be a little bit shorter. It's got some product in it too, so you wash it first or after that?
You can get it in the wash. You will take out and do some